as a veteran, small business owner, what can we do for you?
What we can all do for all veteran business owners is promote each other.
My main mission was to look at tools and technology to leverage small business and give them more of a competitive advantage.
My mission for Veteran Bargains is very simple: to help vets.
That story in itself, to run for Vista City Council, is a journey.
I think this is an opportunity to really collaborate with those gone before us.
It's really kind of a labor of love.
And now your host.
Good afternoon. Happy Friday. How's everybody doing? Welcome to once more of this weekly Veterans Radio Show and Podcast, which features military families, military veterans, spouses, and community leaders who are making it happen while we explore heroism, action, and leadership from those that are making it happen. On this particular episode, it's a very special episode because it's all about the Veteran Chamber of Commerce at the national level. So we're bringing you in key members of our community who are making it happen. It's all about Back2Business and a community panel. So without further ado, I'm going to bring in Joseph Molina, Julio Alvarado, and Dali Rivera, our members from our community. Veterans Chamber of Commerce. But before also we proceed and greet him, I also want to acknowledge our producer, Michael Wood, who is also here, a very active member of the North County chapter. And as well as we want to thank our sponsor for today, who is Savio, and we'll give you more details about them, but we want to acknowledge and say thank you so much for your opportunity to run our feed for our community, but also for your sponsorship. Thank you, Savio. Welcome, Julio. Welcome, everyone, to this special panel discussion.
Thank you, Laura.
How's everybody doing today? What is good and new in business?
Doing
well,
good.
First, no, go ahead, Dali.
No, doing good. Thank you for having us on here.
Absolutely. And so I want to just really quickly acknowledge the great talent we have here in our studio, which first of all, our very special guest who traveled here all the way from Arizona, Julio Alvarado, an Air Force veteran, our Arizona chapter director for our Veteran Chamber of Commerce at the national level. And he's also a well-equipped individual in the business strategy. So he carries over 35 years of business strategy in the nonprofit sector, in the private sector, as well that he has held multiple board positions and is very well versed with all military lingo and connections. So Julio, thank you so much for giving us your time. And then of course, everyone knows Joseph Molina here, our founder and CEO for the Veteran Chamber of Commerce, who is just phenomenal community connector and also an Army veteran, very well versed as well in all of the military and veteran matters. And then our very special Dali Rivera, who is Army veteran herself, founder of Dali Talks, and is also a very active member of our Riverside chapter. And then Michael Woods, who is our producer here at the local level. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you for having me.
Yes. So Julio, who wants to take on Julio and explore his business insight here?
Well, I really would like to start with just thanking Julio for all of his efforts in the past couple of years. We've had a tremendous experience. Julio is a nonstop activity person. He just doesn't quit. But he's also very involved with our Native American community, which he's basically our connection to the community, as well as the wellness community network. So I really would like to kind of just dive in and see what news, what activities, what programs, Julio, you are involved in right now that you are impacting the communities in Arizona. Anywhere you would like to start?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. And Julio, remember, I shared with you when we had our call that Arizona is very special because that was my very first station when we first joined, or when he joined the military and I joined him after coming back. So tell us about the great chapter in Arizona.
Well, thank you for having me. First of all, it's an honor, and I'm humbled by the invitation. Arizona is a unique state from the standpoint that it has a very large veteran population. It also houses the Air Force Museum in Tucson and the Luke Air Force Base and what have you. But it is a home to many, many veterans. There's about 600,000 in the state. And 33% of the Navajo Nation is also veterans. So you have a large population, actually the largest tribal population, veteran population in the United States among all tribes. So the objective that I sought was helping the veterans. This all came about, obviously, from the fact that it's pretty obvious that there's a great need. We happen to have the largest veteran homeless population, particularly among veteran women. And also, we have veterans that within the whole nation that are committing suicide at 22 veterans a day, which is unbelievable, and it's sad. To me, it's completely unacceptable. And so
And
I go ahead.
I was just gonna say I'm very grateful for the opportunity for everything that you're doing out there because with your service, with the length of service of and your involvement in the community, it's very gratifying to see someone like yourself be really involved and to be very very active in the community, acknowledging all those services and social challenges for veterans in their local community.
Exactly. And what I gleaned from, because I've always been a researcher. All my professional life, research is something that I concentrated on and worked very hard to fine tune it. And within the research, I kept asking, number one, why is it that the veterans in particular who are going through rehab relapse at a 90% ratio, meaning that 90% of the veterans will relapse back into addiction and so forth, with a 7 to 10% chance of making it. That was my first question. I visited multiple rehab centers, et cetera, et cetera. They were open to everybody, but my concentration was primarily with the veterans. My second observation, and I was curious as to, okay, what's going on, is why were they committing suicide? What drove them to commit suicide? What's causing them in their life? And I have to admit, because this happened to me many, many years ago after being discharged at McGuire, I tried to adjust into the civilian life, and it wasn't easy. It wasn't something that I just like you could turn on a button or turn on a switch and you're in the military, now you're a civilian, everything's fine. No, it's not. I had a hard time from a social standpoint because I seem to be I seem to have grown in a way that that people my age then just they weren't there. So I had matured 2-to-1 on a 2-to-1 ratio. And the same thing with now all of a sudden I had to go find a job. And yeah, people, they gave me the song and dance that they were pro-veteran and what have you. And what I found once again that that they didn't quite understand me. And even dating was a challenge because again, it was weird.
Absolutely. I can I can totally resonate with your the discussion you're sharing about why is it so hard for veterans sometimes to to go through all this process of transitioning, to identify their new calling and their new place in the civilian world, right? And I didn't think, I mean, I knew that was happening, but I didn't think it would, like we say, it would happen to us, and I can tell you, I've seen it personally through my husband and through probably through our family, a couple of members within our family that have gone through that, trying to identify what now, what is my next mission? And I think as a community, and I'm glad that we're having these discussions, we need to do a little bit more to try to help us identify better ways as we continue to navigate more uncertain ways, right? That we continue to be thrown into
Correct.
best practices to help us all navigate together. So, because I've seen it, my husband retired 3+ years ago, and we're still navigating the place in our community in civilian world. And normally, you would think, well, gee, just settle in or get a job. But I totally understand after so many years of being one color, one sort of pattern in a particular situation, it's sort of hard to take your way out of it. It's hard to break those bad habits or good habits that you might have earned during that lifestyle. What about
Exactly.
you, lady? What about
Yeah.
you guys? What about you, Deli? What do you think about this whole transitioning?
I agree. I think it's very difficult because when I got out, I was a somebody at a very young age. I went through the ranks fairly quickly and had responsibilities that I probably would not have had I been a civilian. So it felt like I had a sense of pride and purpose. And then to get out and just be somebody looking for a job, and then you're overqualified or you're underqualified for certain jobs, it's just so difficult, and your family doesn't really understand. And for a woman, and particularly in my situation, I was married to a veteran, and even he didn't understand some of my differences as a female veteran. So it was really, really tough. And now, like, I think I've been out like 12 years. I still find myself sometimes struggling with a few things because I cannot quite relate to other people just like me.
That's
Yeah,
right.
exactly. Yeah.
Go ahead, Julio. Go ahead. Tell us.
No, what I was because in engaging in this conversation, first of all, to me it's a delight because I'm comrades. I'm talking to. I can say a word and you guys will pick up on it and understand it.
Yeah.
And so that's what I experienced in talking to the veterans. Once I did that study and just kind of got an idea, then I went to the source. I went to the men and women. Uh, and trust me, I mean, I went to special forces. I went to just the guys who worked in the motor pool, and I mean, I talked to everybody, but they all have that same common thing, and that is we're back in the world, and like, oh my God, like what's going on? And then I met a Marine, 23 years old, homeless, and that just, pardon my language, it just pissed me off. I mean, I got angry because it shouldn't have happened. This young man gave his all. He fought in combat and so forth, and he's homeless. And so we had a long conversation. And then I met several other individuals and several women that were very active. One I always say that I'm scared of her because she's tough. She's really tough. But anyway, the point I'm trying to make here, or that I'm making, is that as we just alluded to, is the fact that there is a transition that has to take place. To be discharged and then left alone is not the answer. So I saw an opportunity here. What is the one thing that kind of keeps us going? Well, and that is to have a job. If you have a job, at least you have somewhere to go. You have an income coming in, and it gives you time to get your life together. And but then again, you have to have that employer that understands. For example, a special forces guy, Afghanistan, Iraq background, got hired in sales, inside sales, and was put in an office with a bunch of people. And initially, his desk faced a window, and he could see the street, and his sales were up high. And then they decided to make some arrangements in the office, and they say, "Oh, you're doing so good. We're going to give you your own office." And they put him in a room with a door, no windows, and his sales just boom went down to the floor, and he was having struggles. Little did the employer know, or his supervisor know, that he was suffering from anxiety, and that the window was that link to, okay, I'm okay, I'm okay, I'm okay. And so that's an example. I met another veteran who was honest enough, and because he trusted me. And he said, Julio, he says, man, he says, I'm gonna tell you something, man. He says, I'm okay during the daytime, but I go home, man, and all that crazy shit comes back, and he had been drinking, and so he went to alcohol uh, for dealing with his anxieties and stuff. So I came to the conclusion that, yeah, you can have all the clinicians and the psychologists and psychiatrists and all these other people. And by the way, veterans don't like to be labeled. I know I don't. So I don't say PTSD. I say PTSI. Okay, it's an injury. It's not something that's wrong with you. It's something that you can cure. There is a way of how to cure it, and I found the answer to that. It's a combination of things, not just one thing. But employment is very significant, a very significant thing. Number one. Number two is all the programs, because of money, they're all like 3 months, 4 months, at the most, maybe 6 months, and then they're out. So we created a 12-month program in our wellness department for our nonprofit. So that strengthens the opportunity of veterans finding work or becoming an entrepreneur. So all these things came together, and I'm very happy to see that formula in action and actually working. It actually does work. Proof of concept has been established. And so it's important. Go ahead.
That's perfect. And I would love to be able to hear more about that formula and that concept. Let me just take a really quick pause to recap on our individuals who are joining us, potentially viewing right now. We are here at the Veterans Radio Show and Podcast. We are here weekly. We're talking in a community panel style discussion today. Julio Alvarado, who is our Arizona chapter director for the Veteran Chamber of Commerce in that section. And he shares over 35 years of experience in business strategy and nonprofit sector, as well as he is an Air Force veteran himself and supports our community over there in the Arizona chapter. Our sponsor for today is Savio, a community where military veterans who are driven by technology can get connected and take advantage of all the great education that Savio has to offer. It's all about veterans in technology and all of your great needs that you have to expand your future. So thank you so much for your support, Savio. We look forward to exploring new ways to connect military veterans to your technology community as well as careers. Thank you. Thank you, Julio. And you were you were sharing with us about the amazing program and steps that you started over in your chapter. How does that work for someone to get connected with you out there?
Well, outreach is extremely it's a challenge, and there's various reasons for it. Number one, the COVID is not helping, by the way. In order for an outreach to work, you gotta create events. You gotta invite people. You gotta socialize. You gotta bring them together. So once this is over with and we're able to do events, not Zoom, but get out in the streets, you got to get in the streets. Veterans enjoy that, and most veterans we have this thing about us that we don't like to be told what to do. Number one, so you got to understand the veteran mentality. But we like to eat and we like to socialize and we like to tell stories to one another about what we did and so forth. So even at my age, I tell some stories when I was in the military and crack people up. So our outreach is very succinct, and that is that we work with churches, we work with organizations that attract veterans. We work with we reach out to the American Legion. We work to the local clubs, their veteran clubs, bike clubs, and also I'm always talking to people that head up support groups and say, what veterans do you have in there? I like to meet them. I like to and then we have people just word of mouth that just they know that what we're doing. And I had a young man refer to me who was Army and was suffering with hearing problems because He was in the war, and you know, and all that shelling and what have you, and he was having a challenge.
So I have a question.
He's part of our program.
Yeah. So I have a question about the outreach. One of the things that I always think of when I see a veteran who is homeless, I'm always afraid to offend, but I do want to reach out. So for people like me, I'm sure there's others who feel that way. What advice would you give them if they want to reach out, but they're wary? Is there a specific tactic that we should take that we are not aware of? Because homelessness and veterans who are homeless are stigmatized so much. So that sometimes prevents people like me to reach out so that we don't offend or come off as this grand person that's going to do something good for, like I'm going to be coming in and be your savior, which is not the case, you know?
That's critical. That is extremely critical. You have to approach it from a non-judgmental way and being careful and being sensitive. The one phrase that I try never to use is, I understand what you're going through. BS. No, I'm not walking in his shoes. But what I do tell a veteran, hey comrade, hey buddy, you know what? You know, a sailor, a airman, soldier, you know what? I'm here to help you. I'm here with you. We're in combat out here in the war. But it's the war fought in a civilian manner. And if you need anything, I'm here to help you. And establishing that trust. And it's amazing. Like I'll see somebody, a young man, you know, when I say young, I'm talking about in their 20s, 30s and stuff, and they got their haircuts and stuff. My first response is, hey, you military? And a lot of them go, no, I just like to cut my hair short. You know, but then I have those guys that when I say that, you military, they go, yeah, I'm Army, hoorah! Like, you know, all of a sudden, this is like, you know, everything becomes like, you know, like we've known each other for 10 years. Mm-hmm. And so you have to be out in the streets. You have to communicate, men and women. I mean, this BS about, you know, you can only talk to men. No, that's a bunch of BS. Women are suffering just as hard, and in some cases harder. I had a lady come up to me who was homeless and said, Julio, I was in the military. I was a nurse. I did this, I did that, and now I'm homeless because I can't live off my Social Security, and I got disabilities, and I'm having a hard time. So it's helping those veterans with the Veterans Administration if they have disabilities. It's helping those veterans if they have housing issues, try to help them find those things. And it's not easy. It's hard work, but you have to be committed to being out there, and that's important. But the Veterans Chamber is the link, because again, I go back to employment. It is so important. If I'm talking to a veteran at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and he's been drinking, he doesn't have a job unless he works nights, you know. But he's having problems, and so it's keeping your eyes open and understanding, and always watching. I always watch how men walk. You know, veteran always has that. You know, they think they're still back marching again. You know, you know, it's just in our blood. You know, so you watch the little tales, little things that tell you. Or veteran family. I work with Gold Star families. You know, who've lost their sons and daughters to, you know, in war, and just talking to them. And every time, even though somebody is not in the military, they'll say, you know what, my uncle was in the military, or my dad was in the military. You know, also you start getting links of relatives. And so, to me, it was important to utilize the chamber to talk to companies, which I got the entire Phoenix directory of companies. And I'm still in the A's, and just calling and saying, do you have any veterans employed with you? Do you have under your employment? And they'll say, well, no. Well, would you consider hiring them? Yeah, it's just that, you know, we don't know. Well, okay, well, let me talk to you. So my objective over time, and I could use a lot of help, but I just, you know, baby steps, is using the Veterans Chamber to contact organizations that hire veterans, as a way of connecting with veterans. Because you ask, how do you connect? Well, that's my way of doing it, is go to these companies, I don't get Panera's. I see some guy walking, you know, and I can tell they're veterans. I can just smell them. I can just like, hey, And we have that language among each other, and so that's the way of doing it. So I'm
Julio.
thankful for Joe getting me connected in this way, because it is a vehicle for reaching out to the veterans and helping them. If they have a problem, let's give them some help. But more importantly, let's get them a job. And then help organizations know how to deal with the veterans. It's not
Absolutely.
just
I
drain,
so
drain, just like this.
I so totally agree with you, and I'm glad that you mentioned family also in everything that is part of the unit and part of the process of making sure that our family members and our veterans and everyone is integrating, and getting the resources properly. And I think sometimes us as family, like I can tell for myself, we sometimes either have the wrong expectations, or sometimes we build the wrong sort of, because we have seen them at a certain degree of responsibility, and suddenly as civilians is different. So I would like to just call of action to families is just to build more empathy in general. I think for a lot of our our veterans or our family members, and just build that stronger empathy, I think, of understanding how their roles change, their hats, their responsibilities, their mindset changes after you turn off your veteran, or your active duty hat. And that could potentially lead to better opportunities for families to help out our veterans, so that they don't end up we don't end up fighting, I guess you can say, or they don't end up, departing from us and not reaching out to the loved ones. Because that has always intrigued me. Is like, I just like you mentioned, Julio, a young 24, 20, young adult. I've seen several young adults here in Oceanside. And I'm always thinking, don't they have a sister? Don't they have a brother or someone out there who can help them? An aunt or someone. And that always intrigues me. And I know, those are, I guess, one of the reasons why my husband, after 24 years, we're still here, because it's always building that greatest bridge of empathy. Is like, okay, I understand, not happy, but I understand what's going on. And I think that's clearly one of the formulas for understanding veterans as well. Would you
Well,
say?
something I wanted that you brought up in terms of families, which is recently I've experienced, is that we've been in the military, and what is the number one thing that they drum into our head? Need to know. If you don't have the need to know, guess what? I ain't telling you diddly squat. You get discharged, and now you have to deal with your family, and your family has questions. They want to ask questions,
Yeah.
but you keep a lot of things close to your vest. You just don't go talk. It's not that they're top secret and all this James Bond stuff. No, it's just that you don't want to talk about it because you're still trying to process. And I'm talking about this process. I had a Silver Star Vietnam vet who passed away, unfortunately, not long ago. And he and I became very, very close. And he kept a lot to himself because that was his nature. He wasn't the guy who went around looking for, I hope me or me. No, he was the opposite. He was a tough guy. You don't get a Silver Star for being, weak. This guy was hand-to-hand combat in Vietnam to save his unit. But he kept everything to the vest. And just about every veteran I come across is the same thing. So where do they feel most comfortable? In a support group of in-kind, people like him, women and men like we can talk to one another. And that's critical, because when you have, if I can sit here and I can say to either of you, you're both military, and Joe, the same thing, you understand this. If I say, I was at, I was in a combat theater, I don't have to tell you where. It doesn't matter. Combat theater. That means I was boots on ground. You understand that? And if I say, dang, that shit still keeps coming back, I keep having I'm having a hard time sleeping. When I hear I'm having a hard time sleeping, I go, this is somebody that I can help, because I can help some sleep come back to you.
And I also I think it's important to include the fact that not all military veterans who are struggling deployed, there are certain things that have happened to some who didn't deploy that they have to work out as well. And I feel like sometimes people focus too much on the ones who deployed, and then the ones who also need help who didn't deploy are neglected. And I know it's not an intentional thing, but it's important to mention that so that people keep it in mind.
Absolutely. You hit the nail on the head in terms of what's the help that we can provide. The reason that I brought up the people who have been deployed, who have hit combat, is because they themselves are different among other veterans.
Yeah.
Okay, they've experienced things but it doesn't mean, there's a gentleman here in Arizona, in Phoenix, who's done very well. He's got his doctorate degree in divinity, and he speaks and so forth. And he wasn't in combat, but he worked in the bodies that came in. He worked in the mortuary that prepared him for the shipment back to the United States. He has PTSI, or the mechanic who works in a motor pool, but still hears the sounds of war. Or you're doing a job in a base. You know that each military base has an assignment. You know what that base is supposed to be doing. If you're Air Force, you know that Air Force base is either setting up some fighter planes or setting up, it's doing something. The same thing with the Army. Every Army installation has a mission. It doesn't mean that those individuals do not suffer that same trauma that exists. It's in a different form, but it's still trauma.
Yeah, I wanted to jump in real quick, and we do need to get wrapped up and hand this over to Joe. But Julio, there's a couple points, and Dolly too. It was I really connected with, because each one of our transition. I'm a Marine. We got Army. We got Air Force. We got spouse. We got Joe. He's like the amazing executive. And each one of our transitions are quite different, but we're still connected. And so we have to be in that mindset that our experiences, we can't just apply to somebody else and say, okay, that's what they're going through. We just have to be open-minded and just open our hands and say, we're here for you. I'm here with you, and I think that, what you also mentioned, and, is with the chamber, is this is a form of mentorship. And so finding a mentor is the most important aspect in any transition. Get somebody that's gone through it before. But Joe, you had a couple things that you wanted to add so we could get going.
Yes, and thank you, Michael. And Julio, just wanted to say thank you for your continuous effort in working on point to the mission and following the vision and the mission for our chapter in Arizona. And I just wanted to highlight things that kind of impact and for people to connect with us through the chamber, through your chapter. We as you and I discussed before, so we're now launching the Housing for Heroes program, a national network that brings together homeowners and the VA to pay for veterans to stay in homes. So we are building a network of homeowners who are willing to charge less for their rent and receive a income contribution from the Veterans Foundation for the balance. So that way they can bring on military families and they stay away from the streets. Because I'm with you. It really bothers me to see veterans living in their cars under a bridge or no cars at all. And then, that's not the way we treat heroes, or building tents for them. But no tents, no motels. No, they need a place to live like everybody else. So the Housing for Heroes program, that's the mission. So I'm very happy to have kind of announce that publicly with you, that's the program that you and I will be working on in 2021.
Wonderful.
Alongside with the faith-based program, which we know that when we transition out of the military, we lose that connectivity. All of us feel it, whether we're the spouses, whether we're the actual veterans, or with the other parents. We feel that the missing link approach. And yeah, you know, we, like you were talking about the special forces guy or girl, or someone who's, you know, been in combat or an active, you know, active approach in the field, and then coming to work somewhere where it doesn't match their ability. So we have also the veteran-friendly employer network that you and I talked about a year ago, where we are actually identifying employers who say, I am committed, and we don't give them a test. We don't say we want to pass this test and do the medallion thing. We don't want that. All we want is their commitment to say, I will hire veterans. I will give them a chance like everybody else, but I will give them a chance. We're not here to ask for anything. We're veterans. We give. We don't take. We give. So we're not asking for a handout. We're asking for an opportunity, and that's what we provide, an opportunity for veterans to shine, opportunity for veterans to have the opportunity, not to handouts. We don't do handouts. That's why we don't do volunteers, and we don't do donations, because we don't need that. We are veterans. So we want that approach. We want that mentality to come across. So we want to highlight employers who are interested in hiring veterans and they want to take the next step. So, and I know you were interested in that, so I'll be working with you on that for 2021 as well. We got it started in California, but now it's time to move to Arizona and other places. So those are the things that, and also, of course, the Navajo Nation is very, very important to us. The Native American nation is very important to us, because that community, it gives a lot. It gives a lot for our country. It gives a lot for our country, and it needs to be recognized. Like everybody else who does is a veteran, needs to be recognized. And the chamber was found on the principles that everyone is equal. That's why we don't discriminate. We don't ask for ranks. We never mention branches. Laura went crazy today, but we never mention branches, because we all are equal. And whether we're spouses, and whether we're moms or dads or children, we all belong in the chamber the same way. So we all work with the same unit. That's the way we say it, and that's the way we feel it, and that's the way we follow it. So thank you, Julio, for attending the session today.
Thank you.
It's really been an honor, and it's been an honor for years to be working with you. It's a real pleasure. Real pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you, Laura, for giving me the chance to say something, and then now it's back to you. And you are muted. I can hear you.
See, that's because you said I went crazy, and I wanted to just make sure that you acknowledge I didn't go crazy. I just simply acknowledging the obvious, that I'm surrounded by amazing, talented veteran community, and it is a privilege to be able to do this show with you guys. So thank you so much. Thank you, Julio, for being with us. It's been a real pleasure to having this discussion, and thank you for introducing us to a new word, and actually a one that makes sense. PTI, right?
I like that.
Right. I like that too. I love that. That's even better. So this has been a great conversation with Julio Alvarado, who is our Arizona chapter director for the Veteran Chamber of Commerce in that area. So if you would love to get connected and help Julio's mission, please reach out to him and his chapter and make sure that you get united. You have a service, you have something to contribute and a positive way to change veterans' life in that location. Make sure that you're connected. This has been the Veterans Radio Show, which features military veterans, spouses, and community leaders while we explore heroism, action, and leadership for those that are making it happen. Here, Julio Alvarado is definitely making it happen for us and for our veteran community in Arizona. Thank you so much. We'll see you next week.
Bye-bye.